Hey Angela, how you doing? Everybody else, anybody watching this video? This is an image that Angela had posted and wasn't really happy with. I'm assuming because it had blown out a little bit in the little girl, mainly because she just got a flash. And kudos to Michael for hooking her up. Anybody else that's still kind of wondering about these scary things called flashes, just go get one. Trust me, Angela, I'm sure can vouch for that. We have a tendency when we go out and buy a DSLR and it's got this hunky, little chunk of plastic on top that's called a flash, and we think, well, if I really need a flash, it's there, and I really don't have the money to spend 200, 300, 400 bucks on a flash. Listen, flashes are as important as your lens and the camera itself. Once you have one, once you've used one once, it becomes a permanent fixture on your camera. You'll be able to say exactly the same thing without any hesitation. Um, when you want to be able to create separation between this little girl in the background, once you get familiar with the flash and how to use it correctly without blowing her out, you'll be able to make her pop and adjust your camera out where this grass is a little bit darker and the only thing that really gets illuminated is her. And the creativity that comes along with having and using a flash like that is just, it opens up a whole new set of doors for you. So anyway, let's get started. Camera raw, again, kudos, did an awesome job. I'm going to use if you look right here, we have an exposure setting. In cheaper programs and some programs, you open a raw or a JPEG file or a TIFF file up, they may give you an adjustment that says exposure. It's not the same as a raw file exposure setting. But in here, camera raw, it is treating this JPEG image very much like a raw file. I can't get too wild and crazy. If this was a raw file, that would be black basically. But you can see that I don't have any really weird, odd discolorations in the skin and in the lips, which you would normally expect if this was a brightness adjustment, especially with Adobe. They've always been terrible at brightness adjustments. You would expect to see some really strange stuff going on with the skin tones, and it's not. It's giving you an exposure setting to use with JPEG and TIFF files, which right there in itself, take all this other stuff away, I'd give you 500 bucks for this little tidbit of software in itself. Okay? So for the sake of adjusting this out, there's a few things going on here. One thing that I see is that the focus landed here on the chest. Angela, you might want to check your focus settings and make sure that if for shots like this, you want to make sure you're using a spot focus, a single spot focus. So if you're not moving, she's not moving, you put that spot right here on her eyes, the very center spot. And you don't want it on continuous, because when you go to compose this setting, as you draw the camera across to put her on the side of your frame, it's going to focus here, because continuous is going to jump and it's going to grab the ground, of course. So if you're not familiar with that, you really want to take some time to check that out. And I'm guessing you're using like a full grid, like the whole grid lights up, your little red spots and squares on your screen. Not sure what camera you're using. But for this kind of a shot, personal preference, and just about anybody's going to tell you, make sure you're using a spot so you can grab her eye, then recompose. And once you push that button down just a little bit in single spot, it's not going to change as you move across to recompose this so she's off center. Your focus is not going to change. She's going to remain crystal, razor sharp. So that's one thing that I noticed. So that's something you want to check. Anyway, let's get back to this. I get sidetracked easy, as you can tell. Okay, so another thing that I'm noticing here, well, it's all part of what I'm noticing, but something that's kind of throwing me off in the image is that the hair is a little bit too soft. Doesn't necessarily need to be changed. We could create a vignette here, a soft focus vignette, draw it across the hair, allowing this to be sharp. Try to kick that edge out a little bit so it doesn't cross here and down, and then maybe soften up this area, like 2/3 of the image soft, leaving her sharp, which will help take the distraction of this grass here, which isn't as great, by the way, now that we've decreased exposure and we've ultimately increased the contrast on the little girl, helping her to override the grass, where before, if we go back to where we were, your eyes almost want to come up this way and explore and see what's going on here. Why, what's so important up in here? And there's nothing there that's important. It's just the screen is split in half. The frame is split in half with two different things. You have high key on the bottom with her, and then you have more abnormal exposure on the top end, which has a tendency to draw your eyes upwards and away from her, only for a second until you look at it and go, yeah, there's nothing there. Let's get back to the girl. So with this exposure adjustment, we've helped make her the center of attention, and has done a very, very good job of it. So anyway, we'll get right back over to here. This is an adjustment brush, and when you select that, we've got a mask going on here, and I'm going to delete that. Now, the adjustment brush, for anybody not familiar with Camera Raw, the new version, it gives you the ability to adjust all of your settings selectively. And they've even, for the selective editing, they've given us our sharpness and noise reduction. So what we can do, we can come up here and select her hair. Okay, I'm not happy with that. This is the first time using the adjustment brush in this new version, but see how it changed the exposure. So bring the exposure back down. I kind of don't like the idea that it changed that. You've got all these other settings all over the place. And the reason it's doing that, it's reading the file and it's saying, okay, I think this is how it needs to be adjusted out. So then when we start painting, we apply these adjustments to wherever we paint selectively. Let me undo that. And all I really want to do in this case is increase sharpness a little bit on her hair. We'll bring that up a little bit. And I just want to increase sharpness. We could do it a little bit with contrast, but doesn't work quite as well. And we'll bring that into the eyes just a little bit. You never want to, when you're selective editing, now I could shoot myself in the foot because somebody could try this with a different type of adjustment and find out that it doesn't work very well. Like if we were doing contrast and we want to increase contrast in the hair, you may not want to bring that into here. But in this case, I don't want to just focus the hair and leave eyebrows and eyes out of it, because it's gonna kind of contradict itself. You're gonna say, wait a minute, how is 2 strands of hair right in front of her eye crystal clear, and something that's a millimeter back, like her eyebrows, is out of focus? That don't make sense. So if this was a close-up, that would throw somebody off. So that's why you want to extend that selective editing with sharpness, for example. In this case, you want to extend that into another part of the image. Of course, in this case, her eyes and the eyebrows and stuff like that. So anyway, without turning this into an hour-long video, this is just one route that you can go. Angela or anybody else is using a program like Camera Raw and adjusting exposure initially, and kind of saving an image that I think you may have felt was an image that wasn't that great, if this is the direction that you wanted to go. If you were kind of liking the high key and you wanted, as I mentioned last night, of brightening this area, then that's another direction that we could go. If so, let me know and I'll just do another quick video and we can reverse this. We can go back high key with her, and then we can brighten this area and soften. What you would want to do in this case here is take this area farther out of focus selectively, and what we could do is create a new mask. For example, if you have this program, take clarity down, take contrast down a little bit. You don't want to get too carried away because then it'll look kind of washed out. Click here, increase your brush size, and then we'll just take this focus down a little bit. Mainly, the main thing that's doing this is going to be clarity. Clarity, by the way, is it's sort of, in a way, a tonal type adjustment. It's more of a contrast, tonal contrast type of adjustment that you would find in HDR software, but it's not quite as strong. You can see if I bring clarity up, you can see how it appears to get sharper, but it's not getting sharper. It's actually just changing the contrast between lights and darks, and that's what gives it that appearance. So now once you've created your mask, and this is what's awesome about selective editing, like in NX2, now you can selectively throw this background out of focus, bringing even more attention to her. And I think we're going to leave this because this falls in line with her and her feet. We could even leave this little strip right here, thinking that this area through here is going to be somewhat in focus, and it goes farther out of focus here. So we could do that with a gradient, and that's right here, but we'll kind of skip that for now. Anyway, I hope this helped. If you find that this was just too simple, too straightforward, and you'd like to see more ideas and tips on how to fix images, edit images, just let me know. Just shoot up your ideas to me, and I am more than happy to do whatever I can do for you or for anybody else in the group that wants to learn how to edit or whatever, photography, whatever, any part of the whole process. So anyway, I hope that helped. Let me know. Have a great night, guys.